Hey, everybody. Welcome to Hattrick's Unofficial Flyers podcast. I'm Rick Mullen. I'll be your host today. And this is going to be like a season two recap or a season recap part two. We talked a little bit yesterday about the season, and there were some things happening today that I've been watching some news clips, reading some articles that I want to talk about. So we're going to jump in and kind of talk a little bit more about the season. And I believe today they had some exit interviews. I think Thursday the Flyers are going to, I guess, talk with Danny Briere, each of the players individually for expectations and what he thought of the season, and just to touch base with the players before they leave. But a couple things. Let we're gonna talk about some Owen Tippett. We're gonna talk about end of game. We're gonna talk about TK Matvey Mishkov a little bit today, and let's start with Tippett because um, Tippett came out and the Flyers actually sent a letter out to everybody, and it was from Tippett, and it says that they just made this following statement on behalf of forward Owen Tippett. Not sure if anyone's read it. If some people haven't, I'll read it to you here. But it says from Owen Tippett, I was unable to return for the second round series versus Carolina due to an internal bleeding issue that I sustained during the first round series versus Pittsburgh. Following a series of medical evaluations, treatments, and rehabilitation under the care of Flyers medical team, I am making progress and feeling better each day. Despite being cleared to travel and skate with the team at certain practices, things did not progress at a pace that I hoped for, or would I allow me to safely continue playing. I am beyond proud of what our team has accomplished this season and truly moved by the tremendous support of the fans. I want to sincerely thank everyone for that support, both personally for me and my family, as well as our entire medical and performance staff. I am confident for a full recovery, and I look forward to returning for training camp in September and an exciting year ahead for this organization. Owen Tippett. Man, that's tough. That's tough. So, I heard that he had a sports hernia. At least that was the rumor going around. That if he required surgery, he might not even make it back before the season started. This sounds a little more promising, but also scary at the same time. Maybe it is, and he's got some bleeding, and they're trying to let's see if it'll heal. If it doesn't, do we look at another Tyson Forrester situation next year with Tippett, where he's trying not to get the surgery, but ultimately has to have it? Not sure. I feel bad for Tippett. He was having a really good year, and for to miss the playoffs, I'm sure it was killing him to sit there and watch his team, go into that Carolina, all those Carolina games and get beat up. So I feel bad for Owen Tippett, and I hope it's a speedy recovery, and this is all behind him come September. I'm going to talk about his contract a little bit because I'm still seeing rumors out here right now about Owen Tippett. Like you got to use him to trade. Danny's got to trade from a point of strength, which is our wingers, to get probably a 1C or a 1D in here. And man, I'm just telling you, I don't agree with it so much, and I do. Don't get me wrong, because what do? If you don't trade somebody, you don't get anybody, right? I understand that. I do understand that. In years past, I've been a Flyers fan, watching the Flyers since like 1974, right? There was always a perception where you had to have these star players, right? 100% you did. You had to have the Eric Lindroses, the Mark Messiers, the Wayne Gretzky's, the Mario Lemieux. Like those guys are hard to get. Number one, you have to probably stink for a really long time to get them. And number two, I think this new wave of NHL is not as conducive, if that makes sense. If you have one really good line and then you have a bunch of scrubs on your 2 and 3 and 4, it doesn't work out really well. And if you look at Carolina right now, they don't have like stars per se. Yeah, they have players that are a little bit better than ours, but they're not Sidney Crosby. They're not Macklin Celebrini. They're not Connor McDavid's. Like they're good players. They are, but they're not that star player. Like it's not like the Flyers trying to get Austin Matthews or Connor McDavid and having to give up things. I would rather the Flyers take the same road as the Hurricanes here and build 4 really good lines and roll with it. Just saying for the record, that's what I would love for them to do. Can they do that? Yeah, it may take some time, right? These kids need to grow a little bit, and you need to see what they ultimately turn into. If they're keepable or movable. But I would rather the Flyers try to get better quality players this offseason if they can. But I don't necessarily feel they have to sell the farm to do it. And selling the farm to me would be trading Owen Tippett. Like Owen Tippett is 27 years old. He's on an 8-year contract that started in the 24-25 season. And he's making what 49.6 mil for 6.2 mil AAV, right? 6.2 mil goes towards our cap space every year. He's way, way worth that. Way worth that. Chances are he's only going to get better. You have a guy with his speed, his power forward. He had 51 points this year, and he's getting better. And you got him at a contract that is awesome. I mean, awesome. He's one of the biggest reasons why we didn't compete as hard during the Canes series because he wasn't in the lineup. And moving forward, who are you going to get at 6.2 million that's going to play better than Owen Tippett? Maybe a rookie, maybe, right? You're taking a chance on a rookie. I don't move Owen Tippett. No matter what, I don't move Owen Tippett this year. I wait a while before I even think about it. I give him at least a 2, 3, 4 year window here. I don't move Owen Tippett. That contract and what he brings to the table is going to help this team actually have money to sign better players to bring them in to support them. So I'm just not on that same page. There's podcasts out there right now that are talking about moving him. There's other people on X and everywhere else talking about Austin Matthews and getting Connor McDavid and getting rid of these players. And man, I had to jump online today because it really pissed me off. It really did. I'm reading and listening to these things, and I mean, there's literally people out there calling this year a B minus for Danny and Jonesy, a B minus. Like, are you insane? And of course, right away, if these people are hearing me, they're going to turn around and say, "Oh, he's such a homer." Like you can't talk poorly about him. Um, Absolutely not. Like Jonesy and Danny had a plan, and the plan is to get better without having to give up the farm and taking your time and not making a rash decision, which makes 100% sense. I actually listened to a podcast today that was throwing Danny under the bus because he said he's going to do the things that are right for the team. If it's not right for the team, he's not going to do them. And this guy on this podcast like thought that was a bad thing. Like okay, let's go sign somebody who's not right for this team and put him in a bad position, have him be a locker room mess just because you want a star name on the back of a jersey, right? Like it's insane how just some people just don't get it and never will. They just won't. They're negative. The podcast I listened to was super negative. There's 2 guys on there that all they do is just complain, complain, complain. And the one guy talks in like weird voices throughout the whole time. And it's funny. It's funny to listen to them. And I literally listen to them because it's such an uneducated podcast that you have to listen to it just to see what these crazy 2 are coming up with. So anyway, I digress a little bit there. Don't trade the Owen Tippett. Owen Tippett is going to come back and be one of a really good core players here for us for a long time at a really cheap contract that's going to give us extra money to sign other people that are better to put around them. So that I don't want to see happen. TK, he's on an 8-year contract that started this year. He's making $70 million. He's at 8.75 mil AAV. Yes, he was our leading scorer, our leading point scorer during the regular season. Yes, he had an absolutely horrible playoff. What do you do with TK? There's right there a guy that I would move if you could. I would move TK. I would absolutely take some offers for him to see what you could get. That's just me. I'm not saying TK is a bad guy or a bad player, but TK is very inconsistent in the playoffs. And again, I think size matters a little bit, and we as a whole are kind of a little bit of a smaller team. Between Cates and TK and Mishkov, they got bounced. Barkey, we got bounced around a lot. With that Carolina team on the forecheck, so it was hard to knock them off pucks and take it from them. So, if you plan on keeping a Barkey and a Mishkov on this team, I think TK is one that is, up to be moved then. That's just my opinion. I just don't feel like you can win rolling with a bunch of small guys. So anyhow, that's who I think my casualty would be. I think they need to get some bigger players, some better players, obviously, if you can. Not sell the farm, meaning you can't sell your future in a Mishkov. But maybe if you did like a TK, maybe an up and coming guy, right? Like a Jet Lachenko. I know there's not much value there, but a first round pick, maybe that gets you a bigger winger with the same skill set, if not a little better than TK. And I think if he can get the same skill set as TK, that's not a win, right? Right. You want to win. You're giving up three things here. You're giving up a first round pick, like maybe a Jet Lachenko and a TK. You need to get somebody who's actually a little bit better. And in turn, I think that makes the team a little bit better. You have some bigger bodies in Martone. You have a little bit bigger body in Bump. You get rid of one of the smaller bodies in TK. And then really the two smallest again would be Mishkov and Barkey. Barkey obviously plays a lot bigger than his size. And we've seen that this year, so he doesn't worry me as much. TK doesn't have the wheels, really, in my opinion, that he used to, and he's going to go backwards. He's 29 years old. Would anybody, one, take TK's contract? Don't know. And two, can you even get TK to waive his no movement clause to move him? So we could just be, blowing smoke here in the wind, and it's going to get blown away because TK kiboshes it and says no. But that's who I would probably be looking to maybe package with some players to get something else back for next year. We're going to talk about Mishkov in a little bit. That's going to be a pretty interesting topic. But going back to these podcasters, it's insane. Like if you guys are going into X and like reading any of the X posts or any of the message boards, like there's people that actually are pissed off that they didn't win against Carolina. I think we're all pissed off, but in reality, it's like I didn't expect them to win. I'm upset they lost. I expected them to lose. But I am happy they got there. Like I'm not mad at this season in any way, shape, or form. Like there was some speed bumps here that we were all dealing with between injuries and the Mishkov situation and Tocchet. And, I think this year was it really was a feeling out process for everybody. And when you start a job, like let's say you go in as a manager in a job, you have a feeling out process. Like you want to go in there, figure out how the company works, what is doing good, what needs to be changed, what employees are strong, what employees are weak, what systems are good, what systems are bad, and that's exactly what Tocchet did. And when you look at it, we were the same way with Tocchet, the fans, like all of us watching, we're watching Tocchet with like one eye open and one eye closed because we weren't sure, is he going to be good? Is he going to be bad? And then the media starts blowing up the Mishkov thing. And, it caused a lot of internal problems, external problems as well. And, now you're seeing that and it's like, oh my God, can't the Flyers just get this stuff together? It's like always some kind of drama. And, so the beginning of the season was rough. It was rough and we didn't know where it was going to land. But as we progressed through and you could see Rick Tocchet has a really good relationship with these guys. He really does. I'm not saying not everybody can like everybody, but for the most part, I think the team respects him. and they played hard for him, and I think he has done way better than I thought he was going to do this year. And I think getting to the second round was more than any of us thought this team could do. I'm going to leave it at there. So I don't see this as a B minus. I see this as a B plus to an A in growth, in learning for these young players, in the coach trying to figure out what he has and what he doesn't have and what he needs to work on. And Danny Briere and Jonesy not selling the farm here and holding tight to Risto, keeping them and letting them roll through the playoffs with us. I think hands down, this when this is what all these podcasters were complaining about and fans, you know, they have no patience and they're going to say, oh, for 50 years here, we've been patient, right? No, 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 no. I get that. We've all been patient as much as we can be. But Danny and Jonesy just started this a few years back. And every year we have gotten better. And they have done it with pretty much handcuffs on. Handcuffs. They had no money to spend. They didn't have a lot of draft picks. I mean, what do you do? What do you expect a GM to do in that position? What do you expect? You can't expect much. What you have to expect is time. You have to give them time. They have to get a couple years under their belts where they clear house on bad contracts. They recover contracts that we were covering for a few years with those players that aren't even on this team anymore. And they had to look at these young guys and figure out, who do we keep? Who are we not keeping? Who are we going to get? How can we get them if we don't have draft picks, right? So he had to go out and, like the Lawton trade, he got a first from Toronto. He had to do trades like that to restock picks so he could build this team. That's not happening in one season. So the time frame they're on right now, I think, is very, very legitimate. I don't think they've wasted a year here at all since they've been here. Now, with that said, this is the year, this and next year, these two off seasons, these are the years right now, this year, that they have money, they have picks, and they can possibly do something. And this is where it gets, hard, because there's not a ton of free agents out there. Everyone thought, hey, we're going to free agent offer, right? I'm sorry, we're going to offer sheet one of these free agents and try to steal, a heck of a player out there. And, not many are available. There's going to be a hard summer here to try to figure out how to make this happen. There's names like Fantilli out there that you may be able to, offer sheet. There are Austin Matthews rumors where, you'd have to sell the farm to get Austin Matthews, and he's not worth it, in my opinion. He's not. Robert Thomas, they were saying that you have to sell the farm to get Robert Thomas. Maybe you don't. Maybe that was a end of season thing that they were trying to, really put the price so high at the end of the year because they thought someone would match it. But when you're in the off season, prices aren't usually as high as, trade deadlines, right? So maybe you don't have to give up as much to get a Robert Thomas in here in the off season. I don't know. But I do know that all eyes are on Danny right now this year. Not just the people who complain and, are throwing him under a bus every day. And I hate to see it because it's not true. They're completely uneducated and don't understand hockey, the cap world, and how long it takes things to go. And you can't hold the past management against Danny and Jonesy. Danny and Jonesy, from the time they got here, have had nothing but the best interest of the fans, the city, and the Flyers from the time they got here. And I'm not a homer. If they were doing something bad, I'd be the first one to call them out on it. But I'm being honest. They didn't have the assets to build as fast as somebody wanted them to. They had to cut salary. They had to wait until contracts expired. They had to build draft picks. It took a little time, but here they are in a much better position. And this is where Danny has a really hard offseason. He has to figure out how to bring a couple better players in here and what direction this team wants to go. And do they want to do a four lines of really good players, right? Or good players, or four full lines of good players? Or does he want to go the star route with supporting actors, right? I'd rather him get four good lines than a star actor. I don't want a McDavid. I don't want an Austin Matthews. I just don't. I don't. I would take a Robert Thomas for the right place. I would take a Fantilli for the right price. That's me. That's what I would like to see. I would like to see them build four lines. There was some talk out there today from some podcasts saying that, Glendening should be re-signed. More than likely, he made a big contribution to this fourth line. Um, I disagree. I think Glendening was very good for us. I do. I'm appreciative of all he did this season, but I'm done with him now. Season's over. Move on. I would rather see Grabenkin jump in and take a winger spot. I'd rather see Coots maybe going back to center on that fourth line. That's me. If Coots can't center, and again, we don't know what's happening in this offseason. Maybe you put Coots on the wing and I'm going to say Nesbitt just because I don't know who would fill it in, but maybe Nesbitt makes camp and he's the fourth line center, right? I don't re-sign Glendening. I move on. I don't re-sign Grunstrom. I move on. I think Grabenkin was cut short. I think you need to get him some minutes with a revitalized Sean Couturier on that fourth line. Giving Grabenkin 1 year on that fourth line. Let's see what he's got. And if he's not working out, you get rid of him at the end of next year. So there's a lot of moves that Danny's got to think about, and he's got to really, really wonder and have well, not wonder. He really needs to focus on how he wants this team to look. Does he want it? And this has been echoed by Tocchet and everybody. Like, this is a team. You're just a spoke on the wheel, right? How many times have we heard that? If that's the case, then we need four solid lines of players. Four solid lines, mirror Carolina. You won't have to spend as much money on these superstars, and you'll be able to have way more talent that if one line's not firing on all cylinders like Carolina's, their second line was on fire, right? And that's what I want to see here. I want to see four solid lines, and that's my opinion. Now, whatever Danny does, I'll support it if it makes sense, right? 100%. If it doesn't, I'll be the first to call it out. But just seeing what they're doing right now, I'm hoping they don't overpay for Zegras. I really am. I'm hoping they don't overpay for Drysdale. And I hope they save some money to sign a couple guys. Now, here's the tricky spot again. Who do they get rid of? You're not getting rid of Barkey, or you getting rid of Bump, or you getting rid of Mishkov. You're not getting rid of Martone. We all know that. There are rumors about Mishkov that are being blown up by X and people out there. It's hard. It's hard because you got to read between the lines, and everyone's trying to make a Mishkov thing a problem again, and that's kind of what I'm going to get into like right now. So Mishkov in his exit interview today through an interpreter, he had a couple good things to say. He said he said that this was his first playoff series, and he can't say that it was easy. He understood that he played 8 games and he only had 1 assist, and he says, and it was it was a fluke assist, so it wasn't even like a good assist. Like, it could have just as easily been no assist. So he knows he did not play well. He was very positive, though. He said that he's trying to help on defense. He said that he was trying to do what the coach told him to do on how to play. He was trying. He does feel pressure, like the team expects him to score and make plays, and when he's not, that bothers him. So he had all the right things to say. He didn't say or throw anyone under the bus. They did ask him what expectations were for next year, and he had asked if he could skip that question. Why? There's speculation right away. You have one side going, "Oh, that's because he's not committed. He wants to go." And that's not true. Like, there, a little bit later, he was asked another question that said he didn't have his exit meeting yet with Danny Briere, which would come on Thursday. So I don't think he really knows what his expectation is from Danny, and he wants to talk with him first before he lets the reporters know what it is. So Mishkov had a good exit interview. He didn't throw anyone under the bus. He said he had a good relationship with Tocchet. He said he's trying to do what Tocchet says. He said he is trying to play team defense. He did say that there was a difference between how he looked in the beginning of the year and after the Olympic break, which 100% there was. And I feel really, really bad for Matvey Mishkov. I really do. And you can look at things here that, Tocchet last game of the year decides, I'm going to get this kid, and I'm not happy with how he came into camp and he hasn't produced in the playoffs. So for my goodbye last move of the year, I'm benching him and scratching him for the last game of the year. And man, that's ugly. If you're Matvey Mishkov, you're not happy. You want to play. You see all your boys out there playing, and you want to participate and get another crack at it, right? I feel bad for him. I think he's got a hard time learning the language. I think he's getting better from what his teammates are saying. I do know that he did make that mistake, and he admitted it many times that he was out of shape and he came in, but he knows what's expected of him next year. I don't foresee him having any issues. I'm hoping anyhow. But I feel bad for him because he was not put in positions to succeed. Most of the time they wouldn't play the team's probably best passer on the first power play. They wouldn't really put anyone on his line. I think it was him and Cates and Barkey for a little bit. I think it was him and Cates and Bump. He even said that. He said he had every other game he had somebody new on his wing. He didn't complain about the line. He just said that his line was with Cates and he learned a lot from Cates, but that third player was somebody different all the time. So, Mishkov's feeling the pain. He really is. I think he wants to do much better, and it's a shame. That's my opinion. I really wish nothing but the best for this kid, be it if he's here with us or if he's not. Because maybe with everything that's going on here, maybe Danny has to trade him to try to get Robert Thomas. Was it worth giving up Mishkov for Robert Thomas? Nobody knows, and that's the hard thing, right? Maybe Mishkov doesn't get much better, maybe a little bit, and that's it. Or maybe Mishkov learns to skate a little bit better, picks up the defensive game, and he's an absolute terror 4 years down the road here. It's a hard decision because I think either way there is risk. You have a young guy who wanted to play here, who begged to play for the Flyers, who did certain things to make sure he wasn't drafted by anyone but the Flyers. He's totally committed, and he's been through two really hard coaches. He has 2 solid years under him as a rookie and a sophomore. He's got the same points, 51 points. He's got the same points as Owen Tippett did this year. And, he's doing fine. I think his projection's fine. Does he make a lot of mistakes? Yes. He makes a lot of mistakes on defense. 100% hands down. He's got to learn to play better D, and he has to learn to skate faster. He has to. And that's 2 things that are under his control. He can work on both of them. So other than that, if you can imagine Mishkov maybe skating at a Zegras speed, and I know it's probably not going to happen, but hear me out. Hear me out. Bobby Brink had a year there where I watched him try to skate, and he was awful. I mean, he was slow. He was late on the puck. He was falling down. He was awful. And then all of a sudden, next year he comes back, and he's one of the fastest forecheckers we have. He was incredibly different. He did that all in 1 year. So it's possible. It's really possible that Matvey could get much better at skating. And if he did, could you imagine a guy who's got wheels with the vision that Matvey has, and the hockey smarts that he has? I mean, I really think he's got a hell of a window here to work out, get those legs faster, and he could be an absolute stud for us. So I'm praying Mishkov's not traded. I'm praying Mishkov gets much better, and he's that star performer that we've been looking for. But back to that being said, so how then does the Flyers get a Robert Thomas if we're a Robert Thomas type, if we are not willing to trade Mishkov or Martone? I don't know. I'm not sure if it's possible it's going to be really according to the team we're trading with. Do they want players or do they want picks? Really is. It's going to be either that or we're going to have to offer sheet somebody and steal that player away, or we don't go and get those players. We just build four solid lines until that opportunity to get that star player arrives. So Danny's got a hard off season. Looking forward to seeing what he does. Does Urson stay? Does Urson go? Rumors have it that Zavragin might be coming in. Does Zavragin come in and make the team right out the gate? I don't know. Like, they're saying this kid is really good. I would think that they would want to see him a little bit in the AHL. But if he's that good, and he comes back in and he tears camp up, maybe we see him. Maybe we do. So I'm anxious to see. Maybe I think I heard somebody say like the first opportunity for us to hear anything about Zavragin's going to be like around 15 days from now, minimum. So 15 days to through the summer. So we won't hear anything about him for another 2 weeks or so, and then after that, it could be that he's coming over. So let's see what happens with our backup goalies. Defensively, Andre, Juleson, Bristow, got a lot of things going on back there too. So I think there's going to be focus on that end. All right, so there was a couple of interviews that went out today with Travis Konechny being one of them, and Sanheim. So Sanheim and Konechny were actually asked about Mishkov by some reporters. So, the reporters are smelling blood in the water and they're jumping all over these Mishkov topics. And, they asked like Travis Konechny, like how Mishkov basically fits in or whatever. And, TK was pretty adamant. Pretty adamant. He said that the team supports one another, and basically, in a nutshell, he said, "Can you imagine being like 21 years old and going through what Mishkov is doing? Like, can you imagine him coming over here, not knowing the language, how hard it is for him, and it's kind of nuts because." It's got to be difficult. He can't really understand the language. He's trying to fit in with his locker roommates, right? He's trying to not just understand what they're saying, but trying to interact with them. And it's hard to do because he can't really speak good English. It's hard. And him and Sanheim both said pretty much that Matvey went through probably the most out of all of them, that he had so much pressure on him between the language barrier and the expectations, because Matvey was picked up here as, like a star player. Like Matvey's supposed to be like the saving grace of the Flyers and carry them on their back to be like this big producing player like Bedard or Celebrini. He was even in the same sentence as Celebrini, right? Being that good back then. And both Sanheim and TK pretty much said they felt that there was way too much pressure on them, that they can't imagine what it's like. They were at that age and they understand trying to get used to the game and everything, but they didn't have to deal with all the noise as well as the language, the expectations. So they felt really bad for Mishkov, and they felt that Mishkov, he fit in, that he was getting better. They said that I think TK had said that Mishkov was one of the very first players on the ice at practice, every practice. So he was always on time and he was always one of the first players on the ice. They said he was always in the shooting room, right? So there's a shooting room that I guess the reporters aren't aware of, or not. I'm sorry, they don't have access to. And Mishkov was in there constantly shooting the puck around and practicing. So all good things, TK and Sanheim, they said it was all good things. So, they didn't suggest there was an issue. They didn't suggest anything that there was any kind of issue whatsoever. The only thing they said really was that Matvey Mishkov was under the most pressure at his age with that language barrier and what was expected of him more than they had pressure on them when they started. So it's good to see them stick up for Matvey. I think Matvey really, really, truly wants to do better. He wants to be part of this team. He wants to be part of this city. He wants to win here. He wants to contribute most of all. And he would not be happy if he wasn't doing all those things. So I don't think we have any problem with Matvey Mishkov as of now, unless something else comes out we're not hearing. So anyway, that'll end this podcast. If there's some more rumors, some more topics that are coming out, that we're reading from day to day, we'll jump back in and have another broadcast. But don't do yourselves a favor. Really, really pick and choose the podcast you're listening to, because you can go down a rabbit hole with half of these negative, people out there are saying poor things about the Flyers organization, poor things about Danny and Jonesy. You know, just block them out. Don't listen to them. Again, I know I listen to them too because I have to laugh at them. It gives me something to talk about here to see how crazy some of these people are. But do yourself a favor, pick the right info. Laugh at the other ones. But I think the majority of our fans here in Philly showed themselves at that last game when 5 seconds after that game ended, the Flyers lost in overtime. That entire place ripped out, let's go Flyers, let's go Flyers, over and over and over again, cheering, cheering, and cheering. And pretty much all the players said it was amazing. Tocchet said it was amazing. Brendan Moore on the ice with Tocchet, when they were shaking hands at the end, he patted Tocchet on the chest and said, good job. And, take a minute, and he pointed to the crowd, like, take a minute and suck this in. It's good. You're back. Like, this is phenomenal, right? Like, enjoy it because it's been a long time. So most of the fans get it and are supportive. And then we have that crazy media section of X and some of these other things that, the players are, I'm sorry, these members out there are absolutely crazy. Like, I read a couple of text posts from a lot of guys. Like, there's a lot of guys out there that are constantly posting. So they're very well known. And they're just bashing the team. They're bashing Tocchet. They're bashing Danny Briere. They're absolutely insane. I mean, insane. This team has taken some of the best strides in the last 2 to 3 years than they have in the last 15 to 20. They've done so well these last couple years, from clearing out bad contracts to getting assets to getting draft picks to bringing in young players who can play. I mean, look at this team. They've done a great job. They have Barkey on this team. They have Martone on this team. They have Bump on this team. We just saw Bonk, who's going to be a heck of a contributor. Like some of these kids are phenomenal players right now at this age. They just played against one of the strongest teams in the East, and they played well. And it was just their first year, and some of them didn't even have a full year. So there's nothing but positive things here moving forward. And again, it really hinges right now on this summer, the direction this team's going to take. Because he either has to build around what he has, or if he feels not confident in what he has, he has to choose which people are going. And that's what's going to be so hard for Danny. We all expect moves to be made. I think Torch, when he was here, said it. Can't fall in love with anybody because you have to give to get. And that's where we're at right now. We're right at that cusp of, we need to make a move and better this team, but how do we do it and who do we give up? And that's where we're at. So with that said, again, let's get into the summer here. Let's see how these Stanley Cup playoffs finish. Let's see what players are available. Let's really pay attention to some of these rumors that are going to start floating around, the NHL, and the offseason is great. I love hearing them. I love seeing these rumors and who's available. So we'll keep you updated as we see fit. And thank you again for listening. If you want to contact us, you can send an email to hattrickspodcast99 at Gmail. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and Facebook. Please, if you listen, go on YouTube. Get subscribed to us on YouTube. Let's see our subscribers list rise. We have a lot of people listening, but we don't have a lot of subscribers, and I'm guilty of that too. When I listen to podcasts, I listen, but I don't subscribe. now being on the other side of this, I get it. So please subscribe, smash that subscribe button. And until the next time, go Flyers.